So here is, here we're coming off of Father's Day, which, by the way, I hope you all had an amazing time and you got to spend some really quality time with your family. I know it's always a special day for me. But you know what? What if you had time to spend that quality with them every week? Like, what would your relationship be? How would it change if you had that intentional, regular time to spend raising incredible men and women? It was just something that was on my mind. And listen, we're not going to dig into the personal space, but I do want to tell you this. I'm going to kind of hit hard on this. As you're going to hear from me in a little bit, like, this is not something that I would typically do in 1 hour. This is a class. Like, from a coaching client perspective, this could take several weeks for us to build out for an individual entrepreneur or real estate agent. And we're going to dig into it, but I'm going to be tough on you guys on this Monday. All right. Will you guys give me the thumbs up? Am I okay to be tough on you today? Don't take it personally, unless it fits, right? If it fits, I want you to take it personally. I want you to use it as fire to make a change. But this is a big deal, right? If I could help you identify a way to create an additional 52 days in your year that you could allocate however you wanted to spend it. Think about this for a minute. These are not days that would fall in line with the way you've always done your life. I'm talking about 52 extra free days. You use them for your health and vitality. You use them for your spouse. You use them for your parents, for your kids, for your mind, for your soul, yeah, for your business. 52 extra days, you could do whatever you wanted with them. What would you do with them? What would you do with them? Put them in the chat box. I want to see what some of you all, what your focuses are. What would you do with 52 extra days? Yeah. Traveling, all kinds of travel and kids and health and fitness and all kinds of stuff, right? Well, while I'm not going to calculate the hours for you today, maybe if we have a little bit of extra time at the end, we'll share that. All right, and you're welcome to ask questions. My hope here is that I'm going to get through sort of the presentation and help you better understand how to be a productivity ninja by mastering your schedule. And then I'm going to have 10 or 15 minutes at the end for you to ask whatever questions. Folks, you can get onto Instagram and you can go follow me. It's Todd P, as in Paul, Conklin. And that's a really easy way to engage with me and connect with me, direct message me, whatever questions you have as well, if I don't get to your questions today, okay? So let me ask you. And before you answer, just listen to my questions, but before you answer, I want to qualify it, right? Number one, are you living the life that you want? Are you running the business that you want? Do you have the relationships that you want? Big questions, right? But before you answer, I want to qualify this, that on this call with this group, you cannot BS yourself. Okay, there is no BS here. This is a no BS place, because what I'm really talking about is this level 10 epic distinctive life. I'm not talking about the one that we all, oh, how is everything? Oh, it's great. Oh yeah. Really what you're saying is, oh, I'm fine, right? Yeah, I settled for, it's fine, right? Well, it's better than so-and-so. I mean, it's certainly better than average, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one you truly want, the epic, distinctive, level 10 life business relationships. In the chat box, are you? Do you have it? I'm waiting for somebody to put yes, and I'm just going to kick him out of the room. The reality is that so many of us allow ourselves to tell ourselves a story, right? And so here's the bottom line. If the answer was no to any or all of these things, the question is why, right? And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to teach you a secret weapon, right? not sure how secret it is, but the secret weapon that's literally going to give you a chance to change everything. And I'm talking about, like, this is going to sound so crazy, but I'm talking about generational change. I'm not talking about, oh, it's going to change for the week and like it's a great little dose. I'm talking about change that will literally send ripples through the lives and the businesses, the relationships of your people, the people that work for you, like anybody you have exposure and impact to. Okay. I get it. That is a huge statement. Okay. I'll take the pressure, but that's how important understanding and mastering your schedule is to every section of your life. Okay. So let's do this. This could be a little bit like school, right? So I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, grab a piece of paper. I'll give you just a second. Piece of paper, pen. We're gonna get after it, okay? And in writing, I want you to write at the top of the page. I want you to tell yourself how your life, your business, and or your relationships are different from what you want. Okay, I want you to write it down. My business takes too much time. I don't have the relationship with my spouse that I want. I'm overweight, underweight, I drink too much, I eat too much, whatever it is, right? Write it out. And if there's any brave souls, tell me in the chat box, right? This is the safe space. It's the place where we get to support each other. As crazy as it is, I would venture to guess there are less than 10 very specific things that we are all challenged with, and you would just blow your mind at how much of us have them in common. So type them in the chat box. And I see, thank you guys for being honest and open. So while you guys are doing that, I'm going to throw out some truths. We're going to get to some rules, but I'm going to throw out some just, I'll call them truths, okay? Number one, it's going to get me in trouble, right? Actually, this is going to get me in trouble at home, so y'all can pray for me right now, okay? Number one truth, there is no such thing as multitasking. I'm going to say it again. There is no such thing as multitasking. None. Zero. If you don't believe me, Google it. I don't care, right? There's been countless studies, but the bottom line is there is no such thing as multitasking. All you're doing is taking your attention away from one thing when it needs 100% and you're dividing it amongst two. It probably means you're doing both of them mediocre. Worse, you're actually telling someone that's probably important to you that they're not that important because you're not giving them the undivided, right? It's a truth. We got to move on, right? We good? Can I have a thumbs up? Okay. Truth number two, the number one enemy, the enemy to your schedule, there's only one. It's you. You are it, okay? I am the only enemy to my schedule, period. You are the only enemy to your schedule, okay? We'll dig into that a little bit more in a minute. And then number three, for all of you that are feeling this anxiety, right? You might know out of this that I have experienced this idea that, wait a minute, organized, scheduled, wait a minute, that does not feel very free. Like I want to be able to determine, what I do in the morning, and I want to be able to do something when I want to do something and all that. Here's the truth. I'm just going to throw it out there. Organization is freedom. Okay. Truth number three, organization is freedom. When I think of a musician, like you think about these spectacular musicians, right? They understood the basic structure of music, which is exactly why they had the ability to improvise off of the basics, right? Without the structure, there literally is no freedom to improv. Make sense? Thanks, Josh. Okay. Let's dig into the rules. Rule number one. Repeat after me. I am not too busy. I am not too busy. That's rule number one. One of the most frustrating things that I see are these people that look like their head's about to pop off their shoulders. You know what I'm talking about? Like they are so busy. From this day forward, you are not that person. You are a well-oiled machine. You are organized. You are intentional. You do what's on your schedule, period, end of story. You show up. You show up on time. You show up prepared. You absolutely own it. Okay? That's rule number one. Some of you are like, no, right? We tell all these stories about how, somebody goes, hey, how are you doing? Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Right? And then somebody goes and they list their house with somebody else. You go, what happened? Well, I don't know. The sense I got was that you were just too busy. Okay? That is not you. It is not who you are. All right, so let's get back to your list. Many of you have personal stuff on your list. 100%, none of the business stuff is important. It doesn't matter at all unless we have the personal stuff. But because this is an entrepreneur's class, I'm going to hit the business productivity stuff really hard today. But here's the thing, right? The exercise that we're going to go through, it works for all parts of your life. It doesn't really matter what we're talking about. We can be talking about your relationships. We can be talking about your kids. We can be talking about your health and vitality. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can literally do the same exercise for each of those areas. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to promise yourself right this second. Say it. I promise to create structure and intentionality to my relationships, kids, health, finances, whatever it is for you in the next 7 days. Okay, type yes in the chat. Commit. I promise. Good. Okay, rule number 2. You're going to like this one. Rule number 2, there is no lying. You speak the truth to yourself always, period. You mess up, you call it out. You commit to something, you follow through, period, end of story, right? You have a minimum standard of being the guy or the gal that always does what they say. Think about that for a minute and embrace that moment, okay? We do not lie to ourselves, and we don't have a goal to tell the truth. We have a minimum standard to be that person who always does what they say. We good? Okay. All right, so let's dig in here. I want to talk a little bit about your business model. One of the things that I find that entrepreneurs often do is they sort of become a jack of all trades. And listen, I get it, right? I am one, I get it. Like it first comes out of necessity, but then something happens where it becomes so habitual that you just keep doing what you've always done. And maybe that's not the case, maybe shouldn't be, right? I have to thank my wife for mine. There have been several stages in growing our organization where my habits weren't conducive not only to our business but to some of the other personal goals that I had, and she lovingly, of course, right, was said, hey, listen, maybe that's something that doesn't need to be done. But here's the thing: like if you're on this call, like, you've already figured out how to do business, right? Like that's not the problem. You just haven't figured out how to grow beyond yourself. And if you're on this call because it was titled Productivity Ninja, Mastering Your Schedule, chances are you've had this feeling of being consumed. Yeah, like that feeling of overwhelm and anxiety, that feeling that maybe you've been letting people down, or the guilt that you feel associated when you show up late for dinner, or you don't make it to the ball game, or whatever it is, right? Maybe even missing out on business because you feel like, I lost touch with them. Like there's this guilt, right? I'm always reminded by the National Association of Realtors survey that talked about how 89% of the consumers that were surveyed said that they would absolutely use the real estate agent that had sold them the previous property, but only 11% of them did, right? It's this fear. I don't know about you, but like when I think about those numbers, I feel anxiety right now that, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough, right? I want you to hear me right now. What we're going to go into right this second are the very things that are going to end that, because that is not you anymore. Okay. You are an absolute beast. You are in control of your world. It does not control you. All of that anxiety, all of that overwhelm and consumption and guilt, it ends today. All right, so let's do this. I would typically coach an entrepreneur to spend the next week keeping a journal of everything that they do. But since we have an hour, right? I'm going to cut to the chase. But here's the thing: like, if you need an exercise to validate some of these findings, do it. Go through and literally carry a journal with you and just write down everything that you do in a given week. What you're going to find is that every task that you do ultimately falls into 5, we're going to call them disciplines, right? 5 disciplines. And the first one is prospecting, right? And guys, I want you to write this down, okay? Prospecting. By the way, if you guys if you want a recording of this, you can go to cbdistinctive.com/webinars. And we've got all of the AMAs loaded there. Again, you can also go to Instagram and just DM me, and I'm happy to send you the link. All right, so number 1 is prospecting for clients. Number 2, since we are a real estate community, we're going to talk about showing property. But if you're on this call and you don't sell real estate, you sell some other kind of service or product, it still means the same thing. You still got to show people what your product or service is, right? So showing property. Number 3 are offers and paperwork. Number 4, educating yourself so that you can remain relevant. You can remain a knowledge broker, if you will. And number 5 is marketing to tell others about your service and your products. So based on those 5 things, I want you to sort of set aside any of the preconceived notions that you have about scheduling. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start from scratch. And I'd like to share with you a little story. So back in April, in the midst of the whole COVID deal, when people were talking about how much they wanted to get back to normal. You remember that? One of the challenges that our team was presented was, if you had to start over, like let's be careful not to go back to the normal that we didn't like. Like, if you literally had to start your business from scratch, how would your model be different? Right? In other words, how would you change what normal actually is? And that's the kind of spirit. I want your mind and heart sort of in that place, right? So imagine for a minute, you receive a phone call. You receive a phone call from a marketing person that has like just an amazing, like, you love it, right? Like, the idea is so cool. It's amazing. They want to share with you the details, right? You're excited to hear. They tell you, hey, listen, I cannot wait. But hey, listen, we only have space for 2 agents in the market. Imagine for a minute your response to them to scheduling a pitch is, yes, I would love to meet with you on Tuesday or Thursday between 2 and 4, which works better for you. Wait, what? This is like an awesome pitch, and there's only room for 2 agents. Like, what do you mean I would schedule an appointment later? Listen, most of us, at least most of the people that I come in contact with, I won't throw all of you under the bus, but we would sit on the phone right there and we would be sort of mesmerized. We would be listening intently, trying to figure out whether or not this is going to have the right ROI. And oh my God, it's going to be the silver bullet, the snake oil, the magic sauce. It's going to change everything. The reality, though, is that what we're really doing is we're neglecting our business and we're neglecting our families, and we're doing this all with a rationalization that this BS lie that we've been telling ourselves about the importance of the distraction, right? You know what I'm talking about? Listen, again, remember rule number 2, we don't lie. This is the time where we have to stop ourselves and go, yeah, it's probably true, right? Do me a favor, type no lies in the chat box. No lies. We are all grown men and women. We do exactly what we choose to do, period, end of story. It's our choice. Okay. So let's build out this schedule. We're going to build this schedule out. And the great thing about it is it's going to help us make better choices. Okay. All right. So here is some additional participation. Ready? And I want to see some comments here. How much time do we need to prospect? And let's just do weekly, okay? Let's just talk weekly. How much time during a week do we need to prospect for new clients? In the chat box, what are we doing? 1 hour per day, says Jennifer Peterson. All day, every day. Yeah, well, if you're not doing the other stuff, right? 2 hours per day, 10 hours per week. Thank you, Melissa. Anybody else? No? All right, 2 to 3 hours. Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Okay, love it. Okay. How many times per week, and I know many of you just answered the question, so, but I just want you to write down on your paper, right? This is how much time for the entire week. I'm going to break it down into this many days, okay? Go ahead and write that down. Now, number 2, how much time do you need to show property? How much time do you need to show property? And let me just share with this, like while prospecting, you might be able to chunk out, right? Like I could say, hey, listen, I need to do 10. I'm one of those people that works for 5 hours. Like we can talk all day long about, you know, productivity and all that kind of thing when it comes to focus. But when you talk about showing property, right, you need to have availability for showing property. So yes, good. I love that, Sherry. Thank you. So 2 hours a day. Love that. Yes, Adam, that's the plan, but that's just because you are delegating that, right? So, but honestly, you need more, right? 2 to 3 hours, great, love it, right? Writing those down, 2 to 3 hours per day. All right, next one. How much time do you need to do paperwork? Again, much like the showing property, what we're talking about now is making ourselves available. If we did paperwork every single day, we had an intentional amount of time to do paperwork, how much would we really need carved out every single day? Love it. Anita, is that 3 hours for the week? 2 hours a day, Sherry? Okay. You guys just write it all out. 3 hours per day to do paperwork, okay. All right, number 4, how much time do you need for education purposes? I'm a big believer, for any of you that work with me, anybody that's been coached by me, anybody that's listened to anything I've said, I am all about making sure that you've got resources that are helping you to become a better person, a better agent, a better husband, a better parent, like all of those things. We have to always be growing, and education is a huge piece to that growth. So how much time do you need each week for education and growth? And then the last one is, how much time do you need to do your marketing? Right? Again, way too much to dig into today, but most of you should have your lead sources and have a marketing plan. And again, that's all coaching and mentorship. And so that's a different conversation. Happy to have that at a later time. But how much time do you need to put aside each week so that you can execute on your marketing plan? Joni, 2 hours per week, love it. Okay, Sherry. I think Sherry's working like 110 hours a week here. All right, so I'm going to share with you just, actually, let me see if I can do this way. Can you all see my screen? Okay, so for those of you, let's see if I can, for those of you that cannot see my screen, you have the ability to change your view. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean sharing my screen. Can you see this whiteboard? Okay, great. So this is sort of a typical, on average, look at what a schedule might look like, or time allocation. The top one is prospecting. Prospecting is about 10 hours per week, right? What that really works out to be is a dedicated, committed, intentional 2 hours, 5 days a week. Okay? Stop me if I need to answer any questions, right? Showing property, same thing. I need to make sure that I've got specific time allocated for showing property. 10 hours, which is 2 hours, 5 days a week. Now wait, showing property is an interesting thing, right? Because we have people that want to see property in the morning, and then we have people that want to see property in the afternoon. So what do? Well, we would split it up. So an example of that may be, hey, listen, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I show property, or in the mornings for 2 hours, and then Tuesdays, Thursdays, I show property in the afternoons. It's got to work with your life, but understand that there's some nuance there. Okay, paperwork. What I find is that, especially real estate agents that are in the flow, that have been in the business a little bit, that understand the contracts and all that kind of stuff, that doing 5 hours a week is plenty, okay? Most of them, it's because they have decided to allocate or delegate, I should say, their paperwork. We understand that there's a lot of paper that goes on at that time, really should be used in a high value paperwork. And we're gonna talk about that here in just a second, okay? Education, 5 hours, 1 hour each day, okay? And then marketing, 3 hours. 3 hours per week should be enough, okay? All right, so. All right, so I have a question for you, excuse me. Anybody notice anything strange about that schedule? Anybody, a math wizard, want to total up how many hours? Yes, Mark, exactly. It's exactly right, right? It's 33 hours. Here's the crazy thing, right? There's 112 waking hours. That's assuming that you sleep 8 hours, right? There's 112 waking hours per week in your life available. All we did was took 33 of them. That means that you have 79 more hours to do the other things. I'm just saying, like I just want you to keep this all into perspective, okay? So now you start thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, I think that's BS. I don't think that's true. I think 33, there's no way. I work 68. What happens, you start to realize that you do a lot of those other things that suck the life out of your productivity. You know what I'm talking about, right? And you're going to have to show discipline. You're going to have to show strength. You're actually going to have the determination and that like at all costs, because you're going to have to say no. I know, easy. God have mercy on us, right? You're going to have to learn to say no. And listen, if you are somebody like me that is struggling with this whole deal, I want to take you through a quick little exercise. All right. So do me a favor, grab your calculator. I'll give you just a second. Grab your calculator. Yes, Jennifer. While you guys are grabbing your calculator, answer some of these. Yes, Jennifer, huge, right? Having two jobs is really, really hard. Might even be more important to you, but yeah, I might suggest that we all have multiple jobs. Even those of us that are committed to one actual job that's paying us. We have, many of us are parents, right? Well, that's a job, last I checked, and if we're doing it right, we're giving the same importance to our spouses, and if we're doing it right, we're giving the same importance to our health and vitality. So I think we are all really having multiple jobs. But here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to type in to the calculator how much money you're going to make, well, in a year. This is what you want to make, right? And so let's just say, like, okay, you type in yours. I'm just going to use 500,000 as a number here, right? I want to make $500,000. Essentially, what you just did is you committed to roughly 1,800 hours of work. I know that's rounded up, but that's easier math, right? Okay. So take whatever you say that you want to make and divide it by 1,800 hours. If I do that math on 500,000, that means that my hourly rate is $278. $278. Okay, before we go, remember rule two. Rule two, we don't lie. How many of you are doing work that you would gladly pay someone $15 per hour to do? How many? But you would never in a million years pay somebody $278 per hour to do it, would you? But if you're doing the work, that very work that you said that you would pay somebody $15 an hour, but never $278, but yet your goal is to make $500,000, guess what? You are literally paying $278 an hour for that work to be done. Yes, Kelly. This is the awkward silence, okay? So Jennifer, what I'm saying is if you here's what you can't make more of. You can't make more time. It doesn't work that way. And so what we do is we say, hey, listen, I'm gonna work 33 hours a week. Okay. We better figure out how to get the absolute highest amount out of that 33 hours per week. Well, how do I do that? Well, the easiest way is to only do things that are worth $278 an hour if you want to make $500,000, because once the hour is gone, it's gone. Okay. One way you can do that is you can delegate some of the stuff. So transaction coordination would be a perfect example. Okay. You think about all the paperwork that you do, right? Chasing signatures and compliance and like all of these things. That's $15 an hour work. There's no reason that we should be doing that. You should be delegating that stuff that you can pay somebody $15 an hour, and you should take your time and actually spend more of it belly to belly with people who are looking to do transactions. That's the difference between allocating your resources properly or not. Does that make more sense? Yeah, yes, Mark. I hate it too. All right. Some of you on the call are saying, come on, Todd, dude. Now, they don't do that stuff the way I do it. Like I do my contracts. Everybody loves the way I do my contracts, right? Like my marketing's my marketing. My clients expect me to do the marketing. They expect me to be taking the photos. I can't possibly give up control of that, right? Like if somebody else messed it up, God, like I'd be ruined. Hey Todd, the way I do these things, it's just special. Like I'm special. Listen, you guys, I honestly, I've heard it all, right? And I don't mean to make light of or fun of things that honestly people really do feel. And we do feel a lot of these things. But again, remember, we agreed to not lie to ourselves. And the reality is this, and you can take this from me. Every time that I have sought to delegate a task, I have more often than not come to realize that the person that it was delegated to actually did the job better, more consistently, and created a better experience for my client than I did. Think about that. Here's the thing, right? Like, despite all of the excuses, you either want it, you either are willing to do what it takes or you don't, okay? This is that moment that you have to ask yourself, like, am I going to change my behavior so that I can have the life that I said that I wanted? Remember that first thing we at the very top of the page, we said, hey, what is it that's missing? All you have to do is ask somebody that's been on the journey before you, somebody that's grown their business before you, and big and, ready, stayed married, have kids that aren't in jail, right? Like all of the things that we want. And the reality is, if they can do it, you can do it too. Think about these incredible companies, incredible leaders, incredible success stories that you hear. These people that are doing, hundreds and thousands and millions and billions. They don't do it all themselves, right? I talked about this morning. You have to remember, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Bottom line, y'all, it's hard work. It is really hard work, and it requires high discipline, but that's it. That's it. All right. So enough of my soapbox. I'm going to move on. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the art of saying no by saying yes, okay? I want to talk, because this is where that discipline comes in. We just identified that we've got all of our hours, right? We know exactly how much time prospecting and marketing and education and showing properties and paperwork. Those are the 5 things. Those are the 5 things. Again, if you need to validate that, go back and spend the next week or 2 journaling everything, and I guarantee you it's all going to come down into that bulk, or that deal. And if it's not, it's going to be a bunch of that stuff that should be delegated, okay? All right, so, but we have to figure out a way for us to say no, right? Because one of the challenges that many of us have is that guilt, right? That guilt of suddenly now we have to tell people no. And let's face it, like, we are yes people, like we're salespeople. We want to make people happy, and we want to say yes. I don't care if they're clients or if they're family. Hell, it's even yourself, right? When you want to do something, don't you want to say yes? What I love about time blocking is that what I'm doing is I'm creating space, I'm creating time that I actually can say yes, right? So here's what I want you to do. And I'll just, again, because of time, we're going to have to jam through this. If anybody's interested, maybe we'll do a mastermind call or something. We can kind of get a little bit deeper into this. But the way I do this, I create a separate calendar. So I use Google Calendars. So real simple. Google Calendars on the left-hand side, you just go to your calendar and you hit the little arrow and you can create a new calendar. And then I'm going to name it, right? Like mine's going to be named Todd Time Block Calendar, right? So you just put your name, Time Block Calendar, and then make it a different color. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the 5 chunks that we just talked about, right? It was all of these: prospecting 10 hours. We're going to do it 2 hours, 5 times a week. However you broke that down, and we're going to plug that in to your time block calendar. And again, we can kind of go through. If anybody needs a little bit more love on that, why don't you? Yeah, can't scout. You're welcome to ask some questions here, but I'll just make sure that I'm helping through. Like, marketing seems to me like if I did an hour and a half twice a week, that would work pretty well. Education, I like education being more continuous. I feel like when we're learning, our capacity to stay focused on learning is significantly smaller. And so I really like including it into my morning routine. So I'll do shorter time periods. Paperwork, again, paperwork is one of those things where you need to be able to check in, I think, daily, right? And if what I said is, hey, listen, every single day at 11 o'clock, I'm doing paperwork, then every single day at 11 o'clock, I'm doing paperwork. I think you might be surprised at how much smaller the amount of paperwork that you do actually is when you do it that way. And then of course showings, you got to have some time in the morning, got to have some time in the afternoon. What I found is that if you break it up and like I said, Monday, Wednesday, I'm doing the mornings, and Tuesday, Thursday, I'm doing in the afternoons. And then, I don't know, maybe you work something out with your spouse so that Fridays you're doing the evenings. I think we would all agree if we were able to just show property for 10 hours a week, we would all be wildly successful, right? All right, so if you have any questions on that, please interrupt me, okay? All right, so the next step, now that I've created this calendar, I'm now gonna go through and I'm gonna pull up. So what's great about Google Calendar is I can have just one calendar viewable, or I can click the boxes on the left of the different calendars and I can bring up the other calendars. So now I want you to take and pull up your primary calendar, and I want you to take all of the appointments that you schedule, and I want you to move them to the time blocks that are appropriate for their actions. And I want you to repeat after me. From this point forward, if anyone asks me if I have a minute to talk about marketing, my answer will be yes, on this day at this time, whatever your time chunk is. You follow me? This is very, very important. We put this stuff together for a reason, okay? Which brings me to rule number 3. And this might be the most important rule of all. I might have you repeat this one. Rule number 3, it's all my fault. If I can't start a meeting on time, if I can't end a meeting on time, if I can't say yes to what's on my schedule and no to what's not, it is all my fault. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen for that one? There are no, energy vampire, whatever. Like, the bottom line is that we teach others how to treat us. We respect our time. We value our schedules based on how we feel about ourselves. And yes, it's hard. I don't know why that surprises people. But if we wanted to be average, we do average. If we wanted to be average, we would do average work. We would make average choices. We would quit when we experienced average pain or discomfort. But that is not this group. This group does epic work. We are distinctive. We are 1%ers. We understand that in order to have an exceptional business, in a business and frankly in a community where 85 to 95% of people fail in business, you all have heard me talk about the stats, that we have to be the best of the best. We have to do the things that the best do. And I'm going to tell you right now, the absolute best are productivity ninjas. And they own and operate their schedule. Their schedule does not own and operate them. So it is our duty, our responsibility, if, again, we're willing to do what's necessary, whatever it costs, to be successful, just like we said at the top of the page. It's imperative that we do the hard thing. So what are the 3 rules again? What are the 3 rules? Gotta live by them, baby. Rule number 1, from this day forward, we are not too busy. That is not us. We are a well-oiled machine. We are organized. We are intentional. We do what's on our schedule, period. We show up on time, we show up prepared, and we own it. Number 2, we don't lie, especially to ourselves. We have minimum standards and we follow through. And number 3, 100% It's our responsibility, okay? All right, questions? Awesome, Annette. Hey guys, listen, there's a couple of things like, when you think about these schedules and that kind of stuff, there's some tricks of the trade, right? And anybody that's, you know what I might do? Here, let me do this. I'm going to share with you, watch this. I'm going to share with you my schedule. And then I'm going to have a quick little conversation with you. Oops. Here we go. Okay, so here's my schedule. Oops. So you can see the purple is my time blocking. Just to give you guys some perspective. And yes, it starts at 5. That is true, right? And yes, date night made it on the calendar, okay? What this does, though, is when somebody says, hey, listen, can I get some coaching with you, right? I can say, absolutely. I have time on Wednesday between 10 and 3. I have a spot. The answer is always yes. Here's the spot for it, okay? Does it make sense? Now, look what happens when I turn on my primary calendar. Holy schmoly, right? Well, you can see all of the coaching that's being done on that Wednesday, right? Well, you can also see that things are back to back to back to back, right? It is as scheduled as scheduled can be. Like it is literally down to the minute. And here's the thing, best practice says, hey, listen, so Jeff, we have a call. Our call starts at 12 o'clock. Guess what? I show up at 12 o'clock. There's no little chit chat because we understand we've only got 30 minutes. It's a way of me of changing and being the person that I need to be. And at 12:25, because I have a 12:30, Jeff and I are having the conversation that wraps it up. Hey, listen, in our last 5 minutes here, because I have a hard stop at 12:30, what are our action items? I'm very, very structured. What it does is it allows me to have the freedom to be able to go do some other things. And I can kind of dig into that a little bit if you want, but bottom line, you've got to be the person who says, bam, this is how it works. No, Jennifer, I do not. I go to bed at 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Sherry, yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to have seasons in your life and you've got to cut yourself some slack. So I kind of look at it this way. If I am going on, so I'm going to use my wife, all right? So if I go on 10 date nights in a row, if I call up and I go, hey babe, can we skip date night, right? Like can I go do something else? She's probably going to give me a hall pass, right? But if I am sporadic at best, then she's probably not going to be super stoked about giving me a hall pass, right? It's sort of making those deposits that we all need to be making. What we're not talking about is perfection. What we are talking about is living to a schedule and being a true leader and owning our productivity. It's our responsibility. That way, Sherry, when something crazy like that happens, and you've got it. Tanya, that's good. Love it. Do you have a time of the day that you find is best for prospecting? Listen, so the short answer is yes. It depends on what prospecting we're talking about. If it's the phone, it's at 8:30 in the morning. If it's door knocking, then obviously it's when people are at home. 8:30 typically isn't it, and there's a variety of reasons. It's probably a longer, different conversation. But there are times in the morning that are good for door knocking, and times in the afternoon, evening that are good for door knocking. But definitely on the phone is first thing in the morning. All right, you guys. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much for tuning in here and allowing me to spend a little bit of time with you. If there's anything at all, any questions, anything, please do not hesitate. Just connect with me, direct message me on Instagram, or you can shoot me an email or text or what have you. But again, go out and be the productivity ninja that you were born to be. No excuses, no lies. You are not too busy. You got this. Y'all have a great day.